Welcome to Laricy Live. You want to know what's happened in the real estate market? Then this show is for you. I'm your host, Matt Laricy. All right, well, today it's all about the comps, baby. We're talking about comparables, which we call comps. There's a lot that kind of goes into the business of how we determine pricing. Most big cities, I like to call them civilized cities, in the world use price per square foot to determine the values. But comps in Chicago is how we determine value. And it's a big thing that people talk about all the time. So while we're going into the fall and winter seasons and people are talking about pricing, we thought, hey, this would be a good time to educate people about what exactly is a comp. So starting off the questions is, question number one, what are comps? What does comp mean? Comp is a similar unit. Oh, so again, a comp means comparable, which we, just kind of use say comps because it's easier to say. And a comp is a similar unit that's sold or similar house that's sold, and that's what we determine our value off of. And there's so much turnover in Chicago that you could pretty much easily comp stuff out. Do all parts of the U.S. use comps? Do other countries? I mean, yeah, everybody does use comps as an approach. A lot of people, big cities, will usually use price per square foot because it's easier to kind of measure, because sometimes comps can be different. But, a lot of big cities will use both. They'll use the price per square foot and the comparable approach, whereas Chicago strictly just uses the comp approach. And we're saying this, guys, we're just strictly talking about residential game here. Like commercial does do price per square foot, but residential does not. How are comps calculated? You essentially are just going to be looking at other units that have sold that are similar to this, and that's how you determine what the price is going to be. Comp A, right, is going to be the best comp. So let's say we're selling a condo, okay, and you're unit 401. That would be called an O1 tier, right? 401, 501, 601, the footprint's the same. Now, I get it. Some buildings change, etc. Let's just make this easy. Let's say it's an O1 tier. So whatever it ends in is the same tier. So what's going to happen is, like, if we're going to do a CMA, comparable market analysis, to look at the data and calculate this out, we'll draw up the comparable market analysis, and we'll see if there's been any direct comp by comp analysis, meaning like the same tier have sold. And that's going to be the best comp we'll use. So sometimes, there's 200 units in a building, and, you look at the comps, and there's been 6 of the same floor plan that just sold in the last 3 months. I mean, it's pretty easy to comp out, okay? Now, if there's, you're selling a 2-bed, 2-bath, and you have, no of the tier that's traded, but you have, other 2s in the building that's sold, you would use those as comparables. Now, if there's none in the building, you would go to similar buildings like it in the area. If you're looking at a single-family home, you would look at similar single families on that same little block or streets, because each street's different, and, especially in the city, certain streets are going to trade for more money. And then you're going to look at other houses in the area that have sold. And then I like to look at a little bit of an overview of a macro view of that entire area, just to kind of see where the trends have been. So I look at the best parts of it that are, in similar school district, or the same school district, that are right in an immediate area, a few block radius. And then I go a little bit further out and look at both aspects and provide them to the client. Wait, how are comps reliable? Oh, are they reliable? Yeah, the data's there. The data is there. A good thing to do to make sure that you're getting the right information, though, and make sure they're good, is we're in a tricky year right now. So for high rises, I've been going 2 years back, okay? Just because I like to see what's going on with the trends, because the last 12 months has been a little bit difficult, and you could kind of see what's happening, because some of the buildings have dropped substantially in value. So it's good to kind of see where they're at. But, you can't fudge the stats. So when we ask if they're reliable, it's not like you can lie on these things. Are realtors supposed to provide comps, or do buyers, sellers find them? You would be surprised with how many of your clients will kind of know the comps. Some people will really, really study them, and some people won't. We're not it's not essential for us to provide these comps. I mean, I think it is. Let's just back this up. I think providing comps is part of your realtor's job. In fact, when people ask me like, hey, I want to make an offer, our next step email literally says like, we send you comps, review comps together, blah, blah, blah. So, it's a big thing, but, a lot of realtors are just, I hear it in front of our listings. They'll say, well, did you like the place? You want to offer? What do you want to offer? A lot of people ask them what they want to offer. What we do is we provide the comps to people. And then when we say, if you're a buyer, and we'll say, hey, here's what I'd like to offer. Here's what I think it's worth. Here's what I think our game plan should be. That's what I do. On the sell side, I provide the comps and say like, hey, here's where market is. This is market. Okay. Here's what happens if you want to, push the envelope. And this would be as if you want to go like below market. So I provide 3 values. I will say personally, hands down, it's not even questionable. If you ask me the number one reason why I do not get listings, it would be pricing. Always pricing. We're off on pricing. You get 3 agents that walk in and they're like, hey, all the comps are at 500,000. My name's, John Smith. As John Smith, I can get you 600. And, there'll be 3 people that walk in like that sometimes. And then I walk in, I'm like, hey, here's the comps. Every single piece of information says it's 500. You want to push it to 5.25? We could do so. But I'm just here to show you facts. You're the boss. I'll tell you what I would do. I'll do whatever you want. But these are the facts. And like, well, John Smith walked in here and he was pretty darn confident he could get you 600. I'm like, well, I could walk in here confident as shit too. And I could lie to your face and tell you I could get 600 when I know you can't get 600,000. It's just not worth 600. The comps have them at 500,000. But what happens is a lot of sellers will believe. People want to believe what they want to believe. So some people just want to hear what they want to hear. And then what's ended up happening is those people, they cut. I call it death by 1,000 cuts. And the next thing you know, they sell for 480. And then I'm like, well, they would have got 500 or more had they priced it right up front. And that's a big problem. And that's a big problem with comps is that, I guess when it goes back to our comps reliable, I guess it's how your agent presents them, right? You could use the stats to kind of work the way you want them to work, kind of tell the story you want to tell, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. I mean, the data is the data. I can't change the data. It's there. It's clear cut. To me, it's like as easy as day to read a comparable analysis. I'm like, well, this is what it's worth. This is the price. Here's what it is. Mr. Buyer, if you want to spend more on that, I don't care. I'll sell it to you. I'm not going to not sell it to you. Okay? I make money off you if you buy. If you want to go there, go ahead. I wouldn't do it if I was you, but go ahead. On the sell side, same thing. I wouldn't price it there, but if that's what you want to do, you could do so. And that's kind of one of the things that you have to do when you're kind of looking at the comps. Do you think most realtors ever even understand comps? I would say no. I would say absolutely not. I am surprised and baffled by how bad, not all, but it's definitely the new or the ones that don't do much business that have no clue what comps are. Like it's like they'll bring an offer to us, and especially in the suburbs, like suburb agents, they drive me literally nuts. You have like a luxury building, you're selling a luxury building, and the building next door is a total crap hole. And they're like, well, this 2-bedroom traded at 500,000, and you guys are asking $1 million. It's like, well, yeah, the building's a dump. It's not even like close. Like we're literally priced at market. And then you have to argue with these people, and they think they're right. That's the thing that drives me nuts. And that's why some people will probably say, hey, Matt's kind of an asshole sometimes. It's like, yeah, when you're trying to tell me 2 + 2 = 6, and you're trying to ram it down my throat, and I understand fully that 2 + 2 = 4. I can't change that. I would love 2 + 2 = 6, but 2 + 2 = 4, and you're trying to tell me it equals 6, I'm going to get upset. And that's what happens with a lot of these realtors and the comparables is that they don't understand what it is, and then they try to like package it and sell it to you in a way that they think they're smarter than you, and I pretty much bite their head off because I'm smarter than that and I understand what the facts are. So yeah, most agents don't understand what comps are. Can you use online calculations for comps? I mean, there's really nothing online like a calculation tool you could use, at least none that I'm aware of. I mean, maybe there's something out there, but like I don't know if this is referring to some sort of like calculator online. I mean, you could use online stats, like meaning like online comparables, things that have sold, but there's no like tool you could use. How accurate are Redfin estimates? These drive me nuts. I walk in the door. What do you think it's worth? Well, Redfin estimate says it's worth $800,000. Like, yeah, okay, well, Redfin estimates they're a rough ballpark. I mean, honestly, sometimes they're pretty accurate. I won't lie. I mean, every now and then it's like, I'm like, oh, it's pretty much spot on. I would say that happens like 10% of the time or less. Yeah, 10% is pretty aggressive. Probably about 5% of the time, realistically, about 5% of the time. These are, honestly, they're good for rough estimates. Like, is it worth around $1 million? Yeah, I mean, it's somewhat accurate, but it's pretty much, if I'm saying it's worth 1.2 and Redfin has at 1 million, I mean, that's a $200,000 difference. I'm pretty sure, I mean, at least to me, $200,000 is a lot of money. So, I'm pretty sure most people just want to pass on it. But, when you look at these estimates, what they do is they take pretty much a zip code, okay, and they put it into like the number of beds and stuff. They take, let's say, a 2-bed, 2-bath. They'll take that, okay, and like a zip code, let's say 60610, okay, and they'll look at all the closed sales and like pump out like an average, and then they'll like weigh out their AI is getting a little bit better, and they'll weigh out like in that exact like little area what those have sold for. So it's a rough average. So here's the problem: is that like you can have a 2-bed, 2-bath on Lakeshore Drive that's completely upgraded, facing a lake, and it's worth like $1 million, and Redfin has their estimate like 500,000. And then you have a 2-bed, 2-bath on Lakeshore Drive facing a brick wall that's in complete original condition, and that Redfin estimate 500,000. So you can tell me, Mr. Redfin, that both of those worth the same price? No. And I'm not talking shit about Redfin as a company. I'm just saying their estimate itself is a little bit off. How accurate are Zestimates? Same thing. I would say people look at Redfin or Zestimates more than Redfin estimates, at least in my personal interactions. I'm not saying I have no, again, I don't want to like lie to people and say like I have like scientific data behind that. It's my personal experience. I get more of the Zestimate issue, and it's the same. It's really the same thing as Redfin estimates. I don't need to like get into another tangent about the same exact problem, but these are all ballpark ideas. It's like your ballpark could be around this price, maybe give or take. I mean, sometimes it's like not even in the ballpark, but most of the time it's somewhere around there. What are the biggest misconceptions about comps? I think probably, I don't know if there's misconceptions. I think people just don't understand how to read them. The biggest problem that I have with comps in general is that there's sometimes in buildings there could be like a square footage problem. And that can lead to a discrepancy in the comps, in the sense that, like, here's a perfect building, for example. This one always underappraised. It drives me crazy. 849 Franklin. If you look at your CMA, comparable market analysis, and you pull all, let's say, 1-bedroom, 1-baths, the price can be drastically different than what the place is worth. And in Chicago, we don't do price per square foot. And everybody makes up square footage in Chicago, right? So it's either 0 or it's like some made up artificial number that people say. Like, people walk in, the average agent walks in, it's like, yeah, feels like 800 square feet. Let's put that down. But everybody rounds it up, right? So if it's 710, they'll say it's 800. If it's 800, they'll say it's 1,000. And in that particular building, you have units that are legitimately like 600 to 700 square feet. They're 1-bedrooms, and you get these 1-bedrooms that are like 900 square feet. And when you do a CMA, and you have the bigger, I hate these bigger 1-bedroom units, and I despise them because everybody compares the smaller units to them. Like, well, all the 1-bedrooms are averaging at 250, and you're asking 300. I'm like, well, we're a third bigger. That 1-bedroom's 600 square feet. This one's 900 square feet. Like, that's a big difference. Wouldn't you say so? Like, I don't think so, because the one person that closed said it was 800. Theirs was, and that closed lower. It's like, well, the person just made up square footage. So like that's what drives me nuts about sometimes when there could be a misconception about the comps is when like them so well and the other person doesn't. And there's some buildings out there that have like some big issues. And due to discrepancies in what the sizes are and people don't report them accurately, that it could lead to problems. Can comps ruin a deal? I mean, I guess it could ruin a deal being put together because somebody doesn't understand how to read them. But it can't, like, it could underappraise, which doesn't have to do with comps. It has to do with an appraisal approach. But like technically, it can't be under a contract and like comps all of a sudden fly in off a horse and crush a deal. That doesn't happen. Can you hide the price history for a property? Developers will do this sometimes. When a building's first delivered, a lot of units, you don't kind of like flood the market with your own inventory, right? So you don't want everybody to know kind of like what your whole stash is. So a lot of developers will only list, maybe let's say it's like we just did this. There's a 22 unit building. We have 22 units, so we put 4 units on the market. Like, well, I don't want to put 22 on the market. It's stupid. I'm not calling anybody stupid. I'm saying, like, I think it's not the best move. Let's put it that way. I will say, you put the 4 units on, and somebody doesn't want one of the 4, but one in the building, they look at a different unit and they're like, let's buy that unit. And then they buy that, but we don't ever close it on the MLS. So there's no way to kind of find out what the back information is unless you look in the tax records, which most people have no idea how to do. I don't want to get down that rabbit hole. So that's like really the only way you can like hide the price history. But otherwise, nowadays with the MLS's new tool of like listing and price history search, like I love that. I love that, because then when somebody tries to tell me like, hey, this is worth X, and I'm like, yeah, you were just asking X like 2 months ago and I didn't even get it. So like, how can you say that? So that's a good thing. Why does price change so much by location? I mean, that's the oldest thing in the book. I mean, you're in a tier A location, it's going to be worth more money. I mean, if you're in a better school district, it's going to be worth more money than something that's in a worse school district, right? I mean, that's pretty basic. I don't think we need to go into that. How local should comps be in the city? If you're looking in big buildings, they should be in the building itself. And then if there's not enough turnover in that building, it should be in like a similar building. So if you're looking at 375 area, right? I wouldn't compare 375 area to, 366 Superior. Okay, that's a high-end luxury building, but I would compare 375 area to, like, let's say 520 Huron. Those trade about the similar rate, so you pull that. If you're looking in single-family homes, it should be within a few blocks. That's how local it should be, and make sure that those few blocks don't change a school district, right? So if like you're in Lincoln Park Elementary, and then you're comparing it to something in like Alcott or something like that, I mean, that's a big difference. People pay a lot more, and every now and then you could be a block over in a different school district, and there could be a drastic change in price. And that's a big thing that we run into sometimes with single family homes. Again, if somebody's not as educated on the area and they're trying to compare, Lincoln Elementary to an Oscar Mayer and tell me it's the same thing, it's like, well, I mean, you have to realize when you're buying single family homes in the city, a lot of people are searching just by schools. In fact, there's a lot of realtors out there to talk about they wish they had something where you could search easier for schools. But I mean, there's Zenless has it, and the MLS actually has it in layers. If you go in, I could tell you how to figure that out. But better school district, the more it's going to be. So when you talk about how local it should get, it depends on what you're selling, right? And then you have to cater your comps around that. So if I'm selling a single family home and it's in like the premier tier A school district, and I represent the seller, and somebody tells me, well, here's a unit or a house that's sold that's similar, and I'm like, well, yeah, it's a similar house, a half mile away in a different school district, it's not really a comp, So you have to make sure that when you talk about how local is a comp, it has to be a like for like comparable, and I think that's sometimes where could be the problem is that you have a lot of uneducated people that don't understand what a like for like is. I do think like half my time with offers, I'm trying to tell agents what the comp is, and then our sellers or buyers are screaming at us, like, you have to show this. I'm like, listen, I could tell it to them till I'm blue in the face, but I can't like alter somebody's mind. If I could, pretty much get somebody to believe everything I want them to believe, I'd be selling real estate, I'm going to be sitting here. But, I get it. It's a high pressure situation. And that's why sometimes comps can get heated, and, that's what you hire a good agent for. And I like the thrill of negotiations. I think that's the best part. Do clients and other realtors try to misuse comps? Yeah, we talked about that. People just like make shit up. That's one thing I hate is like somebody's like, well, here's a comp from 6 years ago. Like, okay, like what does it have to do with anything? And if you're out there watching this about how to use comps, like use the regular stuff. Don't like, I always tell people, like, don't try to piss down my back and tell me it's raining. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I understand what you're trying to sell to me. I'd rather people just be honest with you. Like, my guy wants it lower. Like, that's fine. Like, I appreciate that. Just be honest about it. I'll just tell my seller, like, hey, you could go here. I think you get more, but I'm not get rid of this thing. That's what you do. Do school districts impact comps? We talked about that. In a city, are comps just inside the same building or same neighborhood? We talked about that. Does floor number matter for comps? Yeah, floor height, right? When we talked about, tiers earlier, let's use the 01 tier to stick with the same thing. Like, if you're on 201, okay, it's a 50-story building, and you're unit 201 and 5001, same floor plan, shouldn't trade at the same rate, okay? Because you don't get a view at 2. At 50, you do, And that's kind of where things kind of get a little subjective, right? Because when a building first sells, if it's in like a small building, they could charge like $100,000 a floor, right? If it's in a big building, they'll charge anywhere from, $2,000 to $10,000 a floor, maybe even more. And then it comes down to is what's that view? So like you could do that when you're a developer, but when you resell, you're not always going to get $2,000 to $5,000 a floor. I might get like a couple grand. 33 to 36. I don't think somebody's going to give you $15,000 more for it, like in a resale market. But like, then it becomes personal, right? They look at it, it's the values in the eye of the beholder there, and that's sometimes when floor height can get tricky with comps, but it's just how you sell it. How can you use comps that aren't exactly match when you don't have a lot of options? So essentially, what do you do when you don't have any options for comps? I mean, I got 3 listings right now I can think of off the top of my head without even thinking about it. We're like, there's no comp. There's just literally no comp. It's such a unique property that there's nothing similar to it, like literally nothing, and nothing even close to it is sold. So, I mean, you kind of have to do an estimated approach. Like, if there's nothing in the immediate area that's similar to the product, you look in other areas that are close to it for ones that have sold. Then I will look at a price per square foot approach, right? Even though I think it's stupid, but like I don't have any comps to work with. So what do I do? So then I'm going to look at average price per square foot. I'm going to look at what similar things have sold that are around that size in the area. And then I'm going to look at where the market is for that. And I'm going to take a pretty much professional guess at what the price should be. That's it. Anybody tells you otherwise is kind of full of shit. You know what I mean? There's nothing else you can do. I have a building right now on the market. It's like a mixed use residential building. There's literally nothing even close to what it's worth. There's nothing. I could make it worth half the price. I can make it worth double the price. So you just got to kind of like, from your experience, look at what's out there, look what people are willing to pay for in the area, and then come up with like an educated professional opinion of where it is. And on those ones, I do like to test the market in the pockets. I'm not a big pocket listing fan. We've done pocket listings in the past, podcasts, but that's a good one where you could test the price and see how the market responds and ask other people for opinion. Like, hey, bring them through. Where do you guys think it is? You know, you can't always think you know everything. Think about what you is and collect your own data, because at this point it's a scientific experiment. That's the best way to do it. Have you ever sold a property where there were no comps? Yeah, all the time. Literally all the time. It happens like maybe once a month. Kind of sucks because we're all kind of like guesstimating in a way, and then somebody's trying to sell me. That's on the other side. If you represent the buyer seller, just trying to sell you a story, and you're trying to sell them a story, and it's just, those are the fun negotiations. People are screaming bloody murder sometimes, like screaming, hanging up on each other, calling each other every name in the book. It happens, and then like 2 minutes later you forget about it. You're like, hey, how's the kids? And that's a good part about the negotiations. What do you do when there are no comps? We talked about that. How old of a comp should you use? Technically, you should only use 12 months. Technically, 12 months. Anything over 12 months is considered Bush League. I will tell you, though, like I said earlier, I've been using 24 months in a lot of areas because we're in such a weird market that I like to see where the trends are going. And then I explain it to my clients. Like, listen, in the last 12 months, this is really what it's worth. But if you look in the last 2 years, this is where it's gone. A lot of times it's gone down in some of the high rises we sell. What's the best way to price a property? I think really I like to price properties, slightly above market. I don't like to get crazy. There's a lot of agents out there. Their whole business is to tell people what people want to hear. And I'll tell you right now, they crush it sometimes in it, because you could run into 10 people in a row that just want to hear what they want to hear. And like I said earlier, the main reason why I don't get business is I know people. I'm a good enough salesperson. I've been around the business long enough that when I walk in, and one thing I always do is kind of see where their head's at on pricing. I could sell. I could sell myself and them and like sell them their idea of what they want to hear. Every time I walk in the door, I almost know what people are going to want to ask for the property. And I always ask, like, what do you think it's worth? And then they tell me, I'm like, I knew they were going to say that. You know what I mean? Like, I just knew it. 9 times out of 10, people say the number that I'm thinking in my head that they think it's worth. And then I'm like, here's why I think you're wrong or right. And this is what I would do. But instead of me telling you why I think you're wrong or right, it would be really easy for me to just agree with everything they say and just like pitch them on like why their idea is the best. It would be honestly, I would say that would be the easiest part of my day. Walk in cocky shit, yeah, $1 million, no problem. No problem. I can make that happen all day long. But when it's only worth 900, I'd rather be honest to your face. And I'll tell you, I probably, out of the listing appointments I lose, I probably get a quarter of them back 6 months later when the property didn't sell. And they're like, you're the only person that actually shot me straight. I can't tell you how. I mean, it literally happens once a week minimum that I get a listing back that I went up on for. So yeah, it sucks not getting it first time around. And sometimes, you're wrong. You think it's only worth 900 and sells at $1 million. You're like, happens a couple times a year. But the reality is that I built my company on honesty, and that's what I'm going to deliver. I always tell people, you're my boss. If you want to ask $6 million, I'll do it. I want it to sell for 6 too. I can't change the numbers. What pricing mistakes do you see new realtors making? Realtors, especially if you're newer, just want business. They want listings to be able to say that, hey, I have so much business, even though I have 100 and some odd listings at any time. I don't brag about it. I wish I had none. I wish they sold all. But, they go in there and they lie to people to get the business. And I think this is the biggest mistake they make, and tell them a price that's not realistic. Where do you realtors find comps? You have a CMA. It's easy. Comparable market analysis on the MLS. In our system in Chicago, MRED does a bang up job with just having, great data. Do you ever use places that aren't selling at comps? No, I don't. I don't make up stuff. Do lenders use comps? Yeah, lenders will use comps if a place underappraised. That's the only time a lender cares about comps. The only other time when lenders care about comps is appraisers, when they need to appraise the value of it and need comps. Why are comps necessary? They're needed to make sure that you pay market or slightly above market, and sellers know what their property's worth. Otherwise, everybody's just making numbers up. Comps are literally probably one of the most important aspects of the business. We need to understand. If you want to understand the market, you have to understand where the values are, and understand where the values are, you got to look at the comps. I mean, it's that simple. They're pretty much everything. Is it harder to get a loan approved without reliable comps? No. Well, yeah, I guess if you talked about appraisal, if you have a property that's selling that has no comps and it needs to be appraised out, like that sometimes can run into appraisal issues, and without an appraisal, you can't get a loan. Do sellers ask you for comps when you give them your suggested listing price? So I personally, before I meet with somebody, if it's a listing, I'm going to send over all my comps ahead of time, as well as my seller's presentation. So when I walk in the door, they've already got everything. There's a lot of agents that sit down and go like one by one with you with the numbers and stuff like that. And I got to be honest with you, when my first probably 5-6 years of my career, that's kind of how I did it too. And then I hate talking, just like going over charts and graphs. I'm so bored saying it, and I could see the dead stare in the people back to me when I was saying it, so I just stopped it. I always tell people, review the comps, and I give them a high-level overview of why. And then some people, if I'm dealing with an actuary or a, tax guy or something like accountant, not tax guy, about like comps, and they want to nerd out about numbers, I'll geek out with them all day. We'll break it out and go through them, be like, this is why this is here. But I'd say 98% of people are just like, what do you think? Here's a couple examples, and we're done. I mean, the price part is, the way I do it is pretty quick. And I have a 95% success rate on listing appointments. So it's very rare I don't get a listing appointment. And I think we do a good job on it. Could we do better? I'm sure we can always improve. I always ask, when we don't get a listing, why did we not get it? Now, people usually don't respond to the answer because I don't think people want to hurt anybody's feelings. But I'm a big boy. I could take constructive criticism. I actually like it when people send me the message back, and it is what it is. So are county assessor values the same as comps? No. I mean, I think every single person in Cook County will take the county assessor's value and sell. Everybody got their bills in the mail. You have an $800,000 property, and the Cook County's tax assessor's like it's worth 1.2. I call them up every year to fight taxes. I'm like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. If you think my property is worth 1.2 and it's worth 800, right? Then you can have it. And I'm just making up numbers, But I'm just saying, like that's, they're off like $300,000 or $400,000. And the Cook County tax assessor's always like, well, we're not in the business to be buying real estate. I'm like, well, what business are you in that you're, coming up with these crazy evaluations of property values? And they're gonna lie, but the county they're full of shit. They need money. The city's broke. So what are they gonna do? They're gonna go after property values. It's an easy way. It's low hanging fruit. Almost nobody ever protests their taxes. Protest your taxes, guys. I got a good tax attorney if you need one. How do you get comps for super unique homes? We talked about this. Have you ever sold a property where you couldn't find a comp? Talked about that. How many comps should you have? I mean, in all honesty, it's how many it's needed, right? I mean, if you got 4 comps of the same tier in a building like we talked about, I mean, I don't need a 5th, and it's 6 months old. It's done. Easy to price out. But if there's not much, you might need a little bit more, and then look at trends. And some people want to look at 1,000 different comps. I don't care. I can provide as much as you want. I try to provide like 9 to 10. Are there any regulations, letters, and no? There's a question about lenders looking at comps. They don't care. How do foreclosures and short sales fall in comps? Usually, you shouldn't use a foreclosure or short sale in comps. They actually, you used to, and I think it was in like 13 or 14, they eliminated them from being compared to comps because they just crush comps. Can you argue a lender's decision with new comps? Yeah, so this is appraisal issue though. If it underappraises, you send your lender comps, you try to tell them why the value's there or not there, whatever your case you're making to be, and then you either win or you lose. 99% of the time you lose that battle and you have to hire a different lender because nobody wants to tell you they're wrong on their decision. What should every buyer and seller know about comps? You should know that it should be like when you ask about if a buyer or seller should know, it should be the agent that should know everything about the comps and then be able to educate the consumer on it. Because buyers and sellers, most of the time, I actually say like almost every single time with my buyers. I send them comps and they like call me up. They're like, I got to be honest with you. This looks like Mandarin Chinese. First time I'm seeing this. I don't know what this means. Like, what do you think? And then I like walk them through it. Now, I'm not saying there's not 1 out of 10 people that are like, this is arguing with me and tell me these weirdo situations why they think it's worth this. But I'm saying like, it's pretty easy, at least for somebody like myself, to read these comps, and I'll always walk you through it. But I think buyers and sellers should know is that like you need to lean on the person that you hired to make sure and hope that they're educated enough to be able to educate you to make an educated decision on how you price your property if you're selling or what to offer if you're buying. And that's it. It's all about the comps. If you want more information about comps, happy to talk to you about it at any time. But thanks for listening to Laricy Live. Make sure to tune into our next episode and subscribe to our podcast. Thanks for listening to Laricy Live.